Hello, I'm Carrie Gard, and welcome back to Tea Time with Tech Marketing Leaders. No, you are not seeing double. This is not deja vu. This is the second show today. It's a double whammy. It's special coming to you for a couple of reasons. One is because my show earlier today, the gal was from Naomi Samoa, was from Tel Aviv. So I couldn't have her on her at 8 o'clock my time because that would have been like her midnight. So we had to pull the show up. And Bowe Hoy, who's with me here today, I couldn't kick him out as far as I would have to. We weren't going to hang out till like end of July, early August, and this conversation was too important for that. So he agreed to fill the slot for me, and y'all get a double whammy. I'm also gone for the next 2 weeks. I know I'm going to miss you too. I know. I'm off to New York for our annual summit. MKG Summit is happening in New York City next week. I'm so excited. I missed last year's. I caught COVID the day I was supposed to fly out. Good times, good times. So this year I will be there with bells on, and I can't wait to see the whole team in person for high fives, elbow bumps, and hugs. It's going to be splendid. But I'm going to miss you all next week. We will not be here. And I get back on Thursday to only fly out to Ireland on Sunday with my family for a week-long vacation that we all desperately need. And so you're going to miss me again. So I'm out for 2 weeks. So I thought, what better way than to give you all a special treat of a back-to-back show this Thursday. I'm so excited for this episode. This is continuing my CRO series. I haven't really dug into a relationship with CROs. And so it's been an absolute treat to have the few episodes I've had thus far. And y'all just hang on to your hats because it's about to heat up with Bowe's episode and on through August. All CROs all the time. And we are going to learn about the power of their role. And it is powerful, y'all. They see into the future. They're like fractional CFOs that way, where they sort of figure out the data and what's happening and trending in industry and market and like what needs to happen to help companies move the needle, and what a hard needle it is to move right now. And they're here for it. And we're here to understand how we can support better CROs and the sales team. It's going to be magical. Trevor Van Worden, welcome to the show. Sales and marketing alignment. It's happening. We're going to touch on that for sure. Before we get into the full topic of our discussion, yes, we are live. Yes to comments. Trevor, I appreciate you as always. If you are here with us, join in the conversation. It's why I do these live, because I want you to feel like you can walk away with something tangible. And while I like to think I can read your minds because I'm living a similar parallel life, I can't. So we need you. We need you in the comments. We need your questions. And both Bowe and I are here for it. A little bit about Bowe before we dive in. Bowe strives to do everything perfectly in life. He is a follower of Jesus Christ. And so that's really important to him, both professionally and personally, with the highest character integrity and ethic aligning with biblical standards and world views. He has been blessed to have successfully led numerous sales and GTM teams of growth-oriented cybersecurity and information technology companies. Key skills and experience include recruiting, executive leadership, strategic planning, personal management, training and development, operational process development and management, coordination and functional management, development of sales and go-to-market models, and managing the performance of a company's sales and gross profit performance as measured against budget. That last line, so key, folks. So key to what CROs do and why their role is so important. Bowe, welcome to the show. So grateful to have you.
Carrie, thank you. And thank you for that splendid introduction. It was marvelous. You did a great job writing it. Sounds like you should be my agent.
Oh, no, you're doing my job for me. That's all you, sir. That's all you, sir. Credit where credit is due. I am here for that. But that's just a quick blurb about what's important, what you do. But we want to know how you got there. What's your story, Bowe? What do you do now? And what was your journey to make that happen?
Yeah, sure. So what I do now is CRO for Edge Networks. Actually, I just caught myself there. Hot off the presses, Edge Networks just rebranded into Edge Fi. and that was a important, obviously strategic move, and would love to talk more about that as far as how that all came about and all the nuances and specifics around that process, and certainly, Carrie, to your point, how someone in my role would be involved in something like that. So, but EdgeFi is the company, cybersecurity service firm that specializes in delivering cybersecurity solutions around strategy and leadership, operations, and governance, risk, and compliance. Those are the three buckets that EdgeFi focuses on. I've been in the cybersecurity industry for a while, and it pains me to say it, but it's been now 20 plus ish years.
That's
I've
just
reached that
experience there, right there.
double
20.
century mark. And
Yes, but
so,
wow, to have
yes,
somebody with us today who has that level of experience. Hats off to that. Hats off
yeah,
to you.
thank you.
Celebrate.
It's been a wonderful journey. It really has. Cybersecurity is a wonderful industry, and I've been fortunate to be part of that journey from really the infancy to where it is today. When I first started, cybersecurity was something that was obviously very fresh, very new, and it was a industry that just blossomed to where it is today. I was at RSA last week, and just to see the massive scale of the industry is breathtaking. And I've been to RSA many times, and so every year it seems to just grow and grow, and to have a whole half of a city of San Francisco be all, really um, absorbed by RSA is amazing. And so, but yeah, it's been a great journey, and cybersecurity is continues to grow. It's not going to go anywhere but up in all likelihood. So I'm really proud to be a small, very small piece of the the industry.
I have to wonder because it still feels it still feels like it's in its infancy. And my feeling on it is it's because it's still very new in terms of what it's ever changing in terms of what hackers are capable of. And now with AI, it's about to get a whole lot scarier. And so I'm so curious around it still feels like a baby to me, but to you 20 years is no small feat. So what has been the experience for you in terms of what it was to where it is today? Like, I feel
Sure.
like more people know about it, but it still feels like we're still trying to crack into it for people to say this is serious and a problem, but maybe it's come a long way. I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, you're right, Carrie. There are certainly elements of infancy and just starting things fresh, because to your point, chasing after the risk and vulnerabilities and the bad guys, so to speak, is constantly a constant challenge with advent of new technology and the influx of just ways that data is shared and is handled, is hosted and accessed, and all those things. The growth of data usage and how it continues to be a significant part of our lives, both professionally and personally. All those things combined make it an ever growing, ever changing, very dynamic industry. And that's why it feels new every day, because there are new things that pop up every day, and new industries and new segments of cybersecurity. When you say cybersecurity, it means so many things now. There's so many different elements of it, and you have companies, you have sectors that have been born out of the industry that have blossomed, right? So there's so many different elements of cybersecurity now from where it was 20 years ago, and so yes, there's definitely newness with it, every day. And so while it's massive, it's also very small in terms of the different elements that come with it and the newness that comes with it. So that makes it really, really fascinating, doesn't it? It just gives
Yes.
opens up all kinds of opportunities as well. And so there are opportunities afresh with cyber that is really, really exciting.
It is exciting. I imagine the audience has changed pretty drastically too from the infancy of it being like as everything generally starts with the founder or the CEO finding out that there's a problem, to then chucking over the fence to a very small IT department of probably one or two people who are like, what is this thing? And I don't know, and we'll figure it out. To now actually having a full-blown security team with a chief security officer title, I imagine has been a very interesting journey for you and how you market to those folks and sell to them.
Definitely. Cybersecurity has definitely grown in terms of the audience, but also to your point, in terms of the type of audience, right? And as you've mentioned, the audience, the buyer, and those who are involved in making cybersecurity decisions have really elevated, right, to the C-suite. And you mentioned this, the CISO, definitely very, very important role, but also as well the other high level executive, C-level team members, especially in mid-sized to larger organizations, enterprise level organizations, very connected to cybersecurity, and those organizations are especially very very strong and are doing the right things, are ones who are very connected at a C level as far as what's happening with cyber. And so the risk have elevated. Those who are involved in addressing those risks and making cybersecurity decisions have elevated beyond, to your point, Carrie, beyond the more technical, the more field level roles to those who are sitting in boardrooms, right? And that's an important change. So from a marketing perspective, definitely need to understand that and to recognize that ultimately decisions come from a high level in most cases. And so marketers need to be able to speak to that.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to hear your journey and to think about how far we've come. While we still have far to go, I feel like we have the right support systems now in place to really combat what's happening or what will happen. So what a journey. I'm in awe. Most people I speak to have only been in security for a few years, and we're still trying to get our feet under us in terms of what it all means. And so to have a pro like yourself, I'm incredibly honored. In terms of where you are from a CRO perspective inside a cybersecurity company, what challenges are you facing? What feels really hard and in your way of helping you and your team and or the company feel successful?
Yeah. So we talked earlier about the massive scale of cybersecurity, and that's a good and it's a bad thing, right? As far as, especially for a smaller organization that's trying to really get a foothold on in the industry as a service provider specifically, the scale of cybersecurity can really drown out those who are trying to market and get a get a foot in the door and stay there, right? And so the challenge is to not try to be everything to everybody. That's a that's a problem that will manifest itself real quickly, because the scale and the breadth and depth of cybersecurity will drown out those who are just trying to be everything. You can't. You cannot pretend to know everything in cyber. That's just not possible. And those on the other end that we're marketing to will see through that really quickly. So you can't, you can't fake it. You can't try to like pretend you're good at something when you're really not. So I guess the key thing there is to know what you're good at, specialize in it, do really well, and then really focus on getting that down really well, and then capturing that focused market, right? And then go from there. And from once you've done that, you can expand other avenues and other areas, but don't try to be all things everybody. Kind of that. Yeah, jack of all trade, master of none, type of thing. That is, I see it a lot in cyber, and candidly and admittedly, I've been there myself, where I'm part of an organization or a team that is trying to find its way, and trying to figure things out, and you generally tend to generalize too much and not focus enough. And once you focus and know what you want to do, and then go after it and put really a lot of effort behind it, and pull the team in the same direction, that's when things happen. That's when things will go in your direction. So the challenge I see, in essence, is the understanding of what that looks like for an organization. Like, what are you going to be good at? What are you going to go after? And not being swayed and being distracted by shiny objects, so to speak, right? And staying true to your mission, knowing where your mission is, staying true to it, and keep going, right? And not being distracted.
Love that.
That is really
so
important.
Key. Yeah, I would agree with that, especially as new categories pop up and new tech pops up on the other side, in terms of hackers being able to be too good at their jobs, and then us trying to fight that in a multitude of ways, right? We can't know every way in which to fight that, but for what your product does in the small piece in which it helps prevent or protect or find or fight, it's knowing which angle you're coming at it from, and then I love that, and then messaging to it really well. I think it's why categories are popping up left, right, center, because we're just trying to find a foothold in how we message the thing that we do really well, for the thing that the one thing with inside we're trying to combat, because there's so many. While not a huge industry yet, it's got a lot to navigate it's got a lot of complexities and a lot to navigate, and I so appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely. And you could spend your entire workday just feeling, viewing, evaluating, whatever, right? New solutions that come along your way, because there's so many out there. And the key thing is to be disciplined, to know who and what you're going after, and really honing in on that. Not to say you don't listen to other solutions or other technologies or whatever it is that comes alongside, that may help you grow and may enhance and augment your core thing. But again, the key thing is to stay true to your core thing. And so the companies that are really doing well are ones who tend to really excel at being disciplined in what they do, and focusing on it, and again, and not being distracted by the things that can be
so many things,
pull you in different directions unnecessarily, right? And I see that a lot. And again, I've been through that myself, so I'm pointing a finger at myself as well.
Oh, for sure. It's helpful to know like what you all are up against as you try and stay focused. I had a wonderful show this morning with Naomi Samoa, who was talking about the distractions. When you are marketing and you have landing pages and you have copy and the story you're trying to tell, and eliminating distractions to keep your audience focused, because there's just so much noise out there, and it's so easy for them to get distracted, ourselves included. I could talk about this clearly all day, but I do want to get on to our core topic. And I think what's really important about it, you know what, before we get there, you did mention that the rebrand in EdgeFi. And so I am curious to understand, rebrand's tricky because it's a blessing and a curse. So I would love to understand how this came about for you all and why you made the decision to rebrand. Because I think a lot of folks are on like the fence of, do we or do not we, and what do we do and what do we not do, and what does this mean? So what's your experience?
Sure. Yeah, it is a tricky proposition, and certainly you don't want to enter it without giving a lot of thought and consideration as to the impact, both positive and negative, and really scrutinizing it well. And in Edge's case, EdgeFi now, in our case, it was about the taking the next step in terms of positioning the company as a cybersecurity service company. The company, the name Edge Networks has a really strong IT service MSP legacy, and obviously the name communicates that it's a networking company, IT company, and so forth, which in its time and its place was a good positioning statement, and it was, the name was proper. But as the company has evolved into a cybersecurity service company and focusing on delivering high quality cybersecurity services specifically to the financial service sector, the name change was something that we really looked at hard and decided that ultimately that it was the right thing to do to shift the message and the positioning of the organization to something that is more in line with where the company is at and where it's going. So there were certainly a lot of conversations about the complexities and elements around that, but ultimately we went ahead and decided to make that happen. So the switch occurred yesterday. So this is hot off the presses.
Well, hats off to you all for having your ducks in a row and having things reroute accordingly. A little redirect action. I appreciate it. I'm so curious around so many things, but I don't want to derail our conversation. I work with a startup, and when I joined them, their name was Avalanche Energy. And the problem with this name was that there was both a hockey team in Seattle, which is where they are, and an energy drink that shared the same name. And so they were getting a ton of traffic that was not anything to do with what they were doing, which was fusion. They are building micro fusion reactors for carbon neutral energy. And so I was like, y'all, I know you like the name energy in there because it gives you longevity, but we really need to swap that out for fusion. And it was a very somewhat straightforward thing to do. And their traffic has definitely grown in the right direction. Is that were you seeing some of that where you were getting, it sounds like you all built a really good brand around your original name and what you were all doing. So I'm just a little curious, like we made the decision because we were getting the wrong people. Is that the case for you in terms of being like a bit more niche and thoughtful around the finance piece to really get those folks versus too wide? How's the audience play into
that? That's a good summary, Carrie, as far as some of the thought process behind it. The audience that in terms of we've been the legacy marketing target audience is one that has shifted for us. We are going after a bit of a different audience, and needed a name and a message around the name that was going to be more relevant. And the other thing is that there is the the element of ensuring that we're capturing the right the right tone, right? The right tone, and it's hard to measure that. It's hard to like quantify what that means exactly. But the tone of our name just wasn't where we wanted to be as far as where we're going, and the market and audience that we're going after. To your point, the challenge with making the transition is that in Edge's case, it had built a pretty strong name and position in terms of the market the market that was playing into. But the key thing is that the company was shifting that focus, and therefore needed a name that's going to shift with it, and that would evolve with it. So that's really the essence of why we decided to go down the path that we are.
That makes a ton of sense, and I totally get it. As a CRO, what role did you play specifically in supporting the rebrand?
Sure. Yeah. So pretty big role, especially for a smaller company like EdgeFi is. And so I knew coming into my journey with the organization that one of the questions I asked was what's the story with the name, and and because I knew that the company was shifting hard into cybersecurity, and so therefore the name was something I was curious about. So I spoke about that with the CEO Mark, and we had some really good thoughtful conversations around that, and he was on board about the eventual shift and refocus and rebrand somewhere down the road. It's just a question of when. And so had a lot of conversations with with the executive team, with the team overall, as far as that, like, what digging into further what makes sense, right, from a timing perspective, and just all the potential pitfalls around that, and making sure we don't alienate our clients and customer base. Obviously, we don't want to do that at all.
So tricky.
And yes, it is, absolutely. And so those are things that you really obviously have to really pay attention to. And so we spent some time just looking into that and asking some questions of customers and and partners and colleagues and so forth, and decided that it was something we wanted to embark on. It was about a 3-month process from start to finish in terms of like
That's short.
Yeah, once we decided like let's do it, it took about 3 months to make that happen. So it was certainly an aggressive time frame, but the team got it done, and and I'm really proud of the team, and it was a significant effort on a lot of people's part. But I think that the key thing is that to be on the same page, be on the same wavelength. You got to, as a team, you have to, not to say you got to get 100%, consensus on every little single thing, but I think the overall, the big picture, like who are we trying to be? What's the positioning statement? What are we trying to capture in terms of messaging and so forth? Who we're going after, right? Those things. Need to make sure that there is really strong alignment on that. And once we got there, it was a matter of just, fitting in the, checking out the different pieces and, executing on those things.
That leads perfectly into our conversation. But before we get there, I need a human people first moment, and I'm going to go say goodnight to my daughter, and I will be right back.
Absolutely. Back. Sounds good.
Intermission. she held on to me for dear life. So thank you all for your patience. I think this is a perfect segue, Bowe, because you were basically talking about vision here and how you, as the person at the table, which we don't always get the pleasure of being, you're the person at the table who's able to have these conversations to say, here's what we think needs to happen, and here's how we think we need to get there, which is the vision piece of your role. And to your point, and our conversation, there's two key elements that you talk about, right? There's the where are we going? And then how are we going to get there? And the people that are going to make that happen, right? So let's unpack that for people to really showcase how you were able to make this rebrand. The rebrand's the example, right, of how this works out so well when you have those two things in play. I mentioned it in my post, but I just think it's such a great way to think about this. My business partner, when he shared our vision with our company, talked about he's a pilot. So of course he goes to how planes work, right? And he says, whenever you get on a plane, you always have a destination. You know where you're going. And as a company, you need that similar viewpoint. And not just as an organization, but even within every department, right? Every department needs to know what their destination is to in helping the organization get to their ultimate destination. So I love how you talked about that with me. But why don't you break it down for everybody? What does it mean to help people understand where we're going? What does where we're going mean?
It means that you need to your point, have a you need to define what success looks like. Like what does success look like for us as an organization, and break that down into different elements, right? Be granular about it, like in a certain time frame, and certainly annually, but even quarterly, and in some cases even monthly. For those who are really want to really be really granular in terms of that approach. And then break it down in terms as well, as far as certainly dollars and and financial. That's obviously really important to define that. Like, what does success mean for us, and in terms of type of customers you want to attain, the retention rate of your customers, and so those. When I say destination, I look at that from not just like big picture, which is important. Like we want to be your mission statement, whatever that is, right? We want to be a leading cybersecurity service provider within the financial sector or something like that, right? So those are noble, mission-minded types of aspirational things, but you need to have. But getting there also means that you break it down into definable, smart goals, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound. Have those really spelled out and defined, and breaking down into important elements, important components of how you measure, measuring, right? Measuring success on a granular basis. And that can be different at different organizations. There are some best practice, like you gotta know, for example, financially, what does success look like? You got to define that, right? You have to know, like, in order to stay in business and to thrive, what does that mean, right? And it's funny I say that, but sometimes that gets overlooked. I believe that a lot of, like, especially small organizations tend to overlook that the importance of having a really solid understanding of your financial picture, and that's something that it takes some discipline. It takes intention and purpose, but it's really important to know what that is.
What do you mean by financial picture?
As in revenue, as in what does revenue and income look like from a success standpoint? What does profit and loss look like? What does staying true to your budget look like, right? And for organizations, especially those who are on a smaller end or trying to get established side of things, sometimes you're running at such a fast pace, especially if you're resource constrained, those things may get overlooked, and it can be can come back to bite some organizations if you don't really pay attention to that. So having a process and resources behind staying aware of where you need to be at from a financial perspective, it obviously ties into revenue. It ties into the sales and getting new clients, all those things. Obviously that's all very important, but ultimately, as an organization, define what success look like, what getting there means from a financial standpoint, and then back into things that has to be done with different elements of the business in order to make that happen, right? The strong organizations, strong companies, strong teams will be very proactive and very connected to that. They're on the same page about what that means. Define it, understand it, then go after it.
And beat the drum for it. It's really hard to beat the drum for it, but
yeah,
the revenue, I would say it's a trifecta. And you mentioned it. So you have revenue, expenses, and profit. And having those three things in balance is the lifeblood of an organization. And if one of those is out, you're either going to dip into your runway in a really hard way that's not sustainable. You're going to grow broke, so you'll dip into your profit, or you won't have enough revenue and you'll be stuck in whatever valley of death you're in at that moment, which will then eventually creep into one of the two areas, right? So having those three in balance and holding true to them is so key and frustrating. It's so frustrating for the rest of your team.
Yes.
It just is. They're never going to understand it because they don't pull all the levers of all of the things to understand how these things are affected. But you gotta hold, as painful as it is, to make sure that you stick to your budgets, you don't lose sight of that profit margin, and you keep that revenue growing. It just...
Yes, absolutely. And so transparency is important, and especially within the leadership team, that there's got to be a lot of transparency as to what success looks like and being united with it. There has to be strong alignment with that. Giving an example would be so success may be in the form of growing your existing customer base in terms of growing revenue within your existing customer base and having a high retention rate, and and in a time and season that may be a better gauge of success than maybe attaining new customers, right? Because the shift in the focus may be that we really want to focus on customer retention, and so knowing that, understanding that, and being in sync about that as a team, especially as a leadership team, is really important. Otherwise, one person may think that, well, we were successful because we were able to do this with our existing customer base, get X net new business within existing customers. Well, someone else may say, well, we failed because we didn't get enough new customers. Both are right, but the alignment and expectation is not there. So therefore, now we have some conflict. And so those are the things that needs to be avoided, if possible, to have a healthy team.
I think this is so tricky right now because with where the market currently is, it feels like all hands on deck, or we need to do both. We need to retain existing customers and keep growing those accounts. And we need to bring on net new because we don't have control over which accounts we might lose. And so it's this constant battle of where do we put our resources. In today's market, I know the perfect world scenario is you would sort of pick one and put everything towards that. Are you actually able to do that, or do you have to do a little bit of divide and conquer on both sides?
Sure. Yeah, I think it varies depending on the type, depending on each organization and situation. There's a lot of variance there, but the important thing is to know what success looks like, again, to identify that, right? For some organizations, it's that if they're able to maintain an X retention rate and X upsell renewal rate, then they're in good shape. And the new customer base, the new customer attainment can be, maybe lower than other organizations, right? Just have to understand what that looks like for your company. And that goes back to the discussion earlier about how each organization has to be really clear on the financial picture as to what does success mean for us, what does failure mean, and obviously avoid failure and get to success, right? And really lay that out there and make sure that each member of the team, especially the leadership team, has a very clear understanding. So, Carrie, I just go back to just being very strong and purposeful as far as knowing where you're going, especially from a financial standpoint, being really clear about it and making sure that everybody's on board with that, and constantly gauge and check to see where you're at. It's easy to let things slip and not be vigilant about what's happening, because again, you're running so fast in a lot of cases, and so coming back to like, how are we doing? What's our target? How are we doing within that target? And where are the gaps? Where are the misalignments? Those things. The strong teams and organizations are really proactive and vigilant about it, and they're also united in terms of what success looks like and how to get there. And if there is any sort of like misalignment,
Yeah.
be very attentive about fixing it.
Yeah. There's two sides to this coin, right? One of the challenges that I see organizations have when it comes to having financial goals as their primary KPIs for the year is the inevitable, not the inevitable, but it feels hard to sell into a team in terms of, this isn't the right language, but it's kind of like the what's in it for me sort of aspect. Obviously my job, and I want to keep my job, and the company's got to be financially sustainable. But it doesn't feel quite like enough all the time to just say we need more revenue.
Sure.
So how do you, in terms of those SMART goals you mentioned, in terms of the team aspect of the people first mentality, how do you pull these things together to create not just alignment, but camaraderie around wanting to make this thing happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a real challenge, right? Because the reality is every business, every organization needs to have the right financial resources in order to survive. I mean, that's just reality. And so the question becomes, what does that mean? Like, I just go back to, like, for each organization, it's different. Like, some companies, organizations have more runway to maybe, to not like have to hit certain numbers within a certain time frame. There's more leeway, right? Maybe there's investors, there are financial soft landing spots that are available. And so on the other hand, you have maybe other organizations where it's bootstrapping, and it's like the owner's financing everything, and he or she has only a certain amount that can be poured into the company, and after that we're in trouble, right? So you have like those different elements. And so I guess my point is that each company has to know where it's at and what the runway looks like and what needs to happen or not happen in order for the organization to survive and thrive, and make that very clear to the especially leadership team, that they need to know that look, we need to hit these numbers in order to be at this level. Ideally want to be here in order to thrive, but if not, then we need to at least be here. But if we're here, then we're in trouble, right? So those things have to be made known, especially in a smaller company environment. And so to your point about like not overdoing that, not over rotating, where the team is so pressed in that area, and there's maintaining a level of like excitement and building camaraderie within the team to like to pull in the same direction, to not just like be so focused on the numbers in of itself. That's a challenge. Absolutely it is. And so that's where I think leadership is really important, to like help understand the broader vision and mission of the organization, each person's role and impact on it, and give a sense of ownership as well. Like, here's your part in our story, in our journey. Here's why you're important. Here's why there's meaning in what you do. And guess what? Once we get there, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to celebrate, and you're going to get this, and just those things, right? Make sure that you always bring it back to the element, to your point, of what's in it for them or for me. And it's okay, to look at that and really drill into that. Like it's good to have those open conversations, with people, I believe, to give everyone a sense of ownership and a sense of meaning behind what they do, right? And so the successful team and successful companies, I think, are very clear and open about those types of those conversations.
In terms of owning part of the process, to your point of bringing them in and helping them feel part of it, there is that aspect of letting them know what's in it for them, right? I always talk about it from a place of security, not security as in cyber, but security as in what it means for them, of not having to cut costs, of I talk about having to find money in the couch cushions. I don't want to do that, right? But if my runway's being depleted and I don't have enough revenue to fill the top of that over time, then when you come to ask me to go to that event, or to get that coaching exercise you want, or for that thing that's going to elevate your career, I have to say no, or I got to go find money in the couch cushion if I'm lucky. And so it's that flexibility and breathing room to be able to elevate them to that next level is sort of where I come from on that. And the other thing, I loved what you said around SMART goals earlier around the company. I imagine, from our earlier conversation before this, you mentioned, and you just mentioned it now, of them being part of the process. I imagine goals plays a part in that too, of giving them ownership of the outcomes in terms of what they can control as well. So it's not just all about, as a marketing, it's really hard to hit revenue. It's really hard to say we can own a revenue number and we know for sure that we're going to hit a revenue number. There's so many pieces in between here and there that impact that. And we can certainly look down funnel and say, okay, we know that these elements impact revenue. It takes time to get there. So what upstream and can we control to know that we're making an impact downstream, I also think is helpful. So talk to me about how you help your team set goals to know that they are impacting that downstream element.
It is a challenging thing for as marketers to connect, right, the ROI based on actual company performance, revenue, and so forth, right? Connecting those dots can be challenging, certainly, but I'm very intentional about giving the team, and being a smaller company, we can do this a little easier, granted, than a larger company, which is helping the marketing team to understand the impact that they're making. And not necessarily, there's some element of, yes, you bring X number of leads, we bring in X number of new contacts and so forth. It's going to result in X dollar down the road at some point in time, whatever that looks like, right? And having some sort of measuring stick around that, and that's really important. But what I try to do as well is like just build in a sense of ownership in terms of, look, you may not like have direct impact on the revenue of the company like immediately, and that's understood. But we still want you to think in terms of like how important that is, to the success of the company. And so with that in mind, I try to build in incentive programs and and bonus structures that is based on how we perform from a bookings and revenue perspective. I do try to include as part of what the marketing team is able to earn and to achieve, with the understanding that, again, it may not be a direct correlation necessarily, but I look at it as like kind of a sweetener, if you will, for them to be part of the team and for them to like pay attention to what's happening on the revenue side and not lose sight of it. And so I have found that to be successful. I think that that's a good thing, to give the marketing team a sense of ownership in that regard, and that once they see that, hey, I do there is a financial impact based on how the company does revenue wise on a quarterly basis, for example. I want to pay attention to that. I know that downstream that I have impact on that, or upstream. Which one is it? One of the two. So bottom line is that I know I have impact, right? It may not be like immediate, but I know that what I do has impact and meaning. And it does not be anything major or massive, but it's enough for the team to feel wanted and connected, and and feel like their work has meaning and impact on the bottom line. And it does, Carrie, it absolutely does, right? It's just a question of how you measure that over time. And so for me, one of the things I try to be even intentional about is just making very simple, like, let's come up with a plan where, based on how we perform revenue wise, you get a bonus incentive from it. And that's just, I look at it as a sweetener, like it's not the main thing, but it's a sweetener for them to feel really connected to what's happening. That's how, aligning marketing and sales, that's one great way to do it.
That's your competitive energy right there. How can we put a little competitive juice into this to make y'all lean into it a little bit harder for that sweetener? I love calling it a sweetener too. That's so fun. I absolutely love this. I think these two aspects are so important, to have a vision of where the company needs to go revenue wise, as well as understand the impact of that revenue downstream from a budget and a profit standpoint. We need all three of those things working together. Being really transparent with the team on why those numbers matter, and then bringing them in as part of the process to make it happen. That's where the flywheel comes in, and that's where the magic happens. And I'm so grateful that you shared that with us, Bowe. Where can people find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So just look up my name, Bowe Hoy, and you'll find me there. I certainly would welcome opportunities to collaborate and engage. Certainly hit me up as well over social media, other social media platforms, if you like. But LinkedIn is the primary way to do it. Email bowe.hoy@edgefi, edgefi.com.
You even got your email addresses all ready to go. I love it.
It's working.
I love it.
Yeah. It's no glitches as far as I can tell.
No.
So kudos to the team for
Yes.
paying attention to all the little checklists that are part of the rebrand.
And in 3 months, usually when people do rebrands, they sort of roll it out. They're like, okay, we'll get the website, rebrand it, but it'll still go to the old URL. And then our email addresses will eventually follow. So hats off to your team for pulling it off. That's incredible.
Yeah, no glitches as far as I can remember, as far as I can tell. So great. Yeah, they did a great job.
Yeah. I mean, I've been poking around and it's happening. I'm here for it.
You're testing.
Before we go, Bowe, you are more than a CRO. I'm so grateful. I can't even tell you how grateful I am for these conversations with CROs, and especially you. So thank you for coming on. But before we go, you're more than a CRO. 2024, spring has sprung, especially in Texas over there with all the rain. What are you most looking forward to in the coming months of this year, being out of the COVID fog and, out into the world, not having any of the things that COVID brought with it, sir?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to, and it's this is happening a lot more now. To your point about, the whole COVID fog, just connecting with people on a one-on-one basis, being able to go out. And I was at RSA last week or 2 weeks ago now, and just it was like like old times pre-COVID. Just no restrictions, anything like that, and that was so beautiful to see. And so I look forward to just continue that, that getting back into the way things were from that perspective. Technology is wonderful, and obviously we work in a very technology-driven world, and we wouldn't be doing what we're doing now without technology. But I love just the face-to-face interaction that is out there. So I'm looking forward to doing more of that, getting out to the marketplace and seeing customers, seeing prospects and partners, colleagues, and important people like yourself, Carrie. Looking forward to just doing that, and and having a blast at it.
Well, I'm going to be at the Cybersecurity Marketing Con in December, so just planting that seed in case I see you there.
Looking forward to it. That's in Philly this year, I believe, right?
It is, which is where I'm from. So
Philly, yeah,
we'll go for a cheesesteak. It'll be
good
awesome.
for you. You have family there as well?
Yeah, I'm from Philly. Yeah, and I went to Drexel and grew up there, and then I went to New York, which they're close enough, right? So I really left home. Yes, so we'll meet up. It's gonna be glorious. If you're gonna be at Cybersecurity Marketing Con, let us know. We'd love to see y'all.
Definitely plan on it. And was at RSA, was at the Content Creator Summit at RSA. That was terrific. Saw a lot of fellow marketers who have attended previous events such as CyberCon, Cyber Marketing Con there, and so it was great to catch up and all that. But yeah, looking forward to that, and wish you a great conference, Carrie. Have a great trip, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
Yes, it'll be great. I'm so grateful for the show. Thank you, Bowe. Thank you, Trevor Van Worden, for always chiming in. I appreciate you, sir. And thank you to our listeners. If you like this episode, please like, subscribe, and share. This episode was brought to you by MKG Marketing, the digital marketing agency that helps complex brands like cybersecurity get found via SEO and digital ads. It's hosted by me, Carrie Gard, CEO and co-founder of MKG Marketing. And if you'd like to be a guest, DM me. Let's hang out. I'd love to have you on the show. Thank you again, Bowe. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, everybody.